All right, guys, when we talk about grains of sand, we're looking at international diplomacy and how it affects the American hellscape we've been distracted by. And often when we talk about that, it springs from the proxy war that the United States and Russia are carrying out in Syria, and how Iran is trying to militarily back Syria, and how they are financially backed by China and Russia. That's kind of the basic structure we work from pretty often. But today I want to talk a little bit about one of the other East Asian countries that we don't often bring up these days, because to be honest, in the last year or two, they've kind of become a joke. And really, we've made a lot of jokes about them, to be perfectly honest. North Korea threatens to build more nukes and cites U.S. hostility. First of all, I think the first thing to notice here is that they did not put Kim Jong Kim in charge. It's still Jim Jong Il. And I just really am not buying it from him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They need to put the sister in, dude. It's time for her to do that. Then we might have a chance of wooing her, dude. Not Biden, but somebody. You know what I mean?
We gotta woo her to the side of capitalism and
that's
democracy,
right, man. That's right. We know you like bread. What if you had choices of what kind of bread to buy?
Ooh.
So when they don't
have the missile capacity though yet, do they?
Oh no, they think they have a so many missile,
right?
But yeah, they think they have a so many missile, but they don't. We have a so many missile, and
we have a so many missile.
Yeah, they're gonna find out soon enough. Realistically, when I see stuff like this, I think they're poking the bear. They're testing the waters. They want to see what would happen if they actually fucking tried, right?
Yeah.
So North Korea threatens to build nukes, and cites their reasoning being that they're scared of us. We're too hostile. They think we're going to attack.
Right. They think we're going to attack.
They think we're going to attack.
So they're building
them.
a bunch of more nukes. Right, okay.
Right. Things that wouldn't... yeah, that's going to be a little bit of an exit out.
X on that, yeah.
Yeah, also Kim Jong Un calls the U.S. North Korea's biggest enemy and vows to advance nuclear arsenal. Okay, guys, listen. We can talk about what's a conspiracy theory and what's not until the fucking cows come home, but this is one of those important headlines to remember. We saw one like this with Iran, one like this with Russia, one like this with China. It's important to notice this shit. Kim Jong Un, otherwise known as Jim Jong Il, calls the United States North Korea's biggest enemy and vows to advance nuclear arsenal. So we're their biggest enemy, and so they want to attack us with a nuclear arsenal, but also at the same time, it's because they're scared of how hostile we're becoming.
Right.
I'm not totally buying this, man.
It
don't
sounds...
buy it.
Yeah, no. I don't
Well,
buy it.
and normally I wouldn't worry too much about North Korea. As far as nuclear arms race goes on an international scale and them having the capacity to potentially attack the American military, they are behind about 3-4 other countries that are already in line. They are not our chiefest of concerns typically. However, what I will say is that recently relations between China and North Korea have gotten a little bit better, as relationships between China and some of their OPEC buddies in the Middle East have kind of started to get worse. So there was something where Xi Jinping and the Beijing Bling were talking about maybe trying to reach out to North Korea and try to get on the same team, maybe. I mean, you see what they're doing, everything that's landlocked together. That's why they tried to make a move on India. You know what I mean? That's why they're trying to tie it up with Russia. This whole
They're trying to manifest their destiny.
Yeah, so when I tell you we should be manifesting our destiny and making all of North and South America the United States of America to create a Western Hemisphere blockade, and you go, that's crazy. Why would we need to do that? Because they're already doing it on the other side of the world. Yeah. They're already doing it, guys. You know, it's like, I know. It's like, what? How much more can I even say about it? That just really is it. And here's another country not only calling us an enemy, not only saying they'll attack us, but also saying they're going to build nuclear weapons. Anybody remember when this happened with Iran? And then suddenly they went and cried to the UN Human Rights Council and like, we just want nuclear power.
What they're
and
doing
then we
here
saw
is
the satellite photos of them expanding their nuclear weapons facility society. So, you could take that with a grain of salt, but I'm going to give you a grain of sand and tell you that North Korea is about to be a motherfucking threat within the new axis. We need to keep our eyes on them. And to be honest, we should be looking out for our friends in South Korea right now. We need to bring those South Korean girls over here, Phil. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. The twerkers. Hell yeah, dude.
Oh, indeed,
absolutely.
Sir. Indeed,
but
sir.
What it seems like they're doing is it's like they're running into you and then falling on the ground and crying and saying, "Oh my God, you hurt me," and then getting up and punching you in the face and saying, "Well, I did it because they ran into me and knocked me over."
And then the court takes their side. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the court being the UN, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I tell you what, man, it's interesting that so many things have coincided time-wise with not only the things that have been said by North Korea here this week, but Russia and Iran last week, and now China as well has been continuing on kind of their same path. And the hot button right now, the easiest way on a world scale to get fucking heat for the United States and bring people to your side is to cite everything that's going on in our country right now. And what have I been fucking telling you guys for months? The moment we're distracted enough with each other that we no longer notice what other countries are doing, we are leaving ourselves open to attack. All these people that are accelerationists about anarchy or civil war with no idea of how fucking horrifying that would actually be to see dead American children on the news, they don't realize the larger problem is that while we're distracted, here come the cruise missiles. You know what I'm saying, dude? Like,
bang!
And here's yet another country saying they're ready to point nuclear weapons at us. And we still can't stop arguing with each other. What are we doing? God damn.
Absolutely ridiculous.
It's not just North Korea getting those points this week. It's China, too. China warns of final madness in last days of Trump presidency. Now, who does that sound like that we talked about earlier tonight? Who came up with a wild theory about what Donald Trump would do in the last week? Oh, Nancy Pelosi. That's right. So big surprise with all the supporters Nancy Pelosi has in the United States. If her sentiments are echoed by the fucking communist government in China, that makes it that much easier for them to coalesce people from the United States onto their side. And we've talked about this before too. Why did Iran in the same week say they support United States protesters and want to help them and put fucking Iranian military boots on the ground to assist U.S. protesters because they want to help the people in the same week that they said the United States is their enemy and they are preparing for war with the United States? Here we are again, finding a way to divide our country. And you know why there's never been a ground invasion in America? Because behind every blade of grass, there's another fucking gun in the United States. Nobody would dare, because our entire goddamn populace is armed, on top of having the most gigantic bloated military budget the world has ever seen. But if not only they were distracted, but you could cut that number in half.
Yeah.
Now we have a fucking shot. Now we have a shot at invading the United States, man.
And that's what scares the shit out of me, G.
It should.
Because it does, because there's no way to win at this point, because let's say the accelerationists get their civil war.
Uh-huh, right.
The side that they're on is not the side that has the backing of apparently the rest of the fucking world.
Dang, that's
and their
true,
goddamn communism.
Yeah, so that's definitely going to be... And plus, man, we've talked about this before. Any scenario where you assume anarchy is a permanent situation is ridiculous. You create a vacuum of power and a new devil seizes it, dude. That's just the way that shit fucking goes. And, committing anarchy or creating anarchy is very similar to being trans. A lot of people want to consider it a permanent situation, but it's supposed to be a transitional period. You can't actually hold on to that forever. But somehow they found a way for trans to be a permanent landing spot, which really makes the word for it incorrect even. And a lot of those same people think that anarchy could be a solution here, and that certainly is not the case. Although I'll be honest with you, Phil, as much as I have been a detractor of it my entire life, this week has been the first time I have really started considering the possibility of Texas seceding. God damn, I don't want to. I want to preserve the Union, dude. The United States of fucking America. I'm no one's bitch. You are mine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's right, dude. I love my country, but Oh boy, I've been forced to think about several things over the last week. We've got to get it together. I don't think we're past the point of saving. We're not. This is the United States. If anybody can do it, we can. But
the virus runs deep, bro.
We that's right, man. The colors that don't run. But we got to fucking get our shit together and start noticing our real problems and stop being a bunch of fucking fat, lazy idiots whose lives are so good that we have time to sit on Twitter and complain about the fucking hairstyles of characters in video games. How good does your life have to be to care if a TV show says something you don't like?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
And
meanwhile, we have very real problems, man.
I mean, that's exactly that's why that kind of shit is happening, is because of the cyclical way that society happens, you know, and we're at the tail end of complacency. And when you're that complacent, your life is that good that you have time to complain about your syrup bottle.
Yeah, you have to manufacture. You have to create those problems to complain about, you know? Yeah. God, it is first world problems. That's 100% accurate, man. First world problems is what's getting us into all of this bullshit right now, unfortunately. But the thing is, since when? I cannot believe the amount that people put China on a pedestal, and I think maybe it's because they're having a hard time differentiating, right? There are people that go, well, the Chinese people are in trouble, so you've got to help China out, and then there are people that go, well, the Chinese government are communists, so fuck China. Well, both of those things are true, and they can be. It's not Chinese people's fault. There's fucking a billion of them. You think those people on farms, it's their fault that Winnie the Pooh is running their country? It's their fault that China wants to go to war for oil with the United States? No, it's not. I feel worse for them. They're under the thumb of a communist regime. How would you like that if that was happening to us? I wish that I had a better solution for changing their Wikipedia page, man, because I don't want us to have to glass the joint. But what I will say is that a delivery of freedom, whether that be literal or metaphorical, I think could make a big difference here, man. Because if we could get them to turn that corner and move towards capitalism and operate like a sovereign nation that does trade on a free and open market with other sovereign nations, we could be friends with China. They got tons of people and resources and land. Like, we could be working together, but y'all had to pull this commie bullshit. And we don't play that here in the United States. We've kind of been through a lot to make sure that we aren't communists here. Cite historical examples A through Z. You know what I mean? Everybody knows that. But you know what I'm saying. It's unbelievable the amount of slack that they're given over there. And let's remember. Let's remember who we're talking about here real quick if we can. Hong Kong blocks a website on national security grounds. Okay, so it's called hkchronicles.com. It's a site that's about Hong Kong and their struggle for democracy and capitalism under the thumb of the CCP. Okay, we get that. We've talked about that several times. But this, among others, the Chinese government, who is in charge of all business since they are communists. And how would you like that? Your government that can't even get fucking stimulus checks mailed out correctly. You want them in control of all business, i.e. all of your paychecks? And you think this is a good idea? How? No.
That's a terrible idea.
It's a fucking terrible idea. Now,
go to a fucking DMV or a DPS and see how efficiently they operate.
That's how fucking Burger King would be if they had it their way. Oh, have it their way. It's Burger King. I didn't even do that on purpose. That's pretty good. There. All right. So they block a bunch of websites and they say it's for national security reasons, but they didn't even give the people a specific reason why. They never pointed to which content was a national security concern. They just shut it off and just said, fuck you, deal with it. Now, again, does this draw any parallels to American life right now? What roads do you go down when you censor people? How do you allow your media mogul? How do you become a media mogul and be so editorialized? How are you not shooting down the middle and giving both sides a chance? If you're looking to attract a 100% demographic market share, what are you doing?
Because they're not.
Doesn't make any sense. Because they're not.
They're hoping they're siding with the majority is what they're doing.
Oh boy.
And since it's communist rule,
that's never gone wrong.
You kind of have you kind of have no choice but to go with the fucking majority. They've got good odds. You know what I mean?
I suppose that's fair enough, man. But I'll tell you what, if them just taking information away from their citizens on the ground that it could be a national security risk without telling anybody why isn't enough for you to realize that China is asshole. You guys remember last week or earlier this week, we were talking about that guy, Jack Ma, right? They often call him the Chinese Elon. He's the guy that started Alibaba. He was a capitalist. He wanted economic reform in China. They said no, and then he up and went missing. You remember that? We were talking about that like a week ago. This guy up and fucking disappeared. Well, guess what, man? He didn't disappear. Oh, no. Alibaba founder Jack Ma has been missing for 2 months. Do you remember the last time an influential figure from China was missing for 2 months? Anybody remember who it was? Anybody remember who it was? That's
we
right.
talked about it.
Let's hear it, Phil.
It was the guy, the COVID vaccine guy, or the COVID guy,
CRISPR,
right?
The CRISPR vaccine guy.
The CRISPR
vaccine guy. The guy that created the artificial lycanthropy for the Chinese government to manufacture their artificial werewolves. The guy that made it. He up and vanished, and then we didn't know where he was for a long time. And it turned out that they had given him the Leo Getz treatment, and the government had just had him holed up in some place for a couple months while they found out what the fuck he knew. So what do you think happened to Jack Ma, one of the richest men in China who recognizes that capitalism is the way? Former head of Chinese financial giant, sentenced to death.
Fuck.
I'll give you a second on that one, friends. I'm going to take a drink of my drink. Bang.
Sentenced to death.
Sentenced to death. His crimes are things like insider trading. Oh, I think it lists them down here, too. It's a bunch of white-collar stuff, taking bribes, embezzlement. Oh, bigamy. Bigamy is one of the things they arrested him on. He was fucking a bunch of chicks, too. He's rich. What do you expect? I'm going to tell you this, though. For nonviolent crimes that have to do with money only, you can say what you want about the United States. We don't fucking execute people over that shit.
That's right, man.
And this guy shows up in China talking about we need economic reform if we want to keep up with the United States. Capitalism has made us so much fucking money. We need to rethink how we're doing our government here. A guy that turned Chinese citizens on to capitalism. The government finds out, they hole his ass up for 2 fucking months to fucking torture him or question him or whatever the hell they did. Then they took him to court, forced him to confess under coercion, and then sentenced him to death. Sentenced him to death.
This is too heavy.
It's too heavy. This is like grains of rocks.
To rescue him.
Yeah, we need Krill Team 6 to go pick his ass up now. We need the governor to call at midnight. I can't fucking believe it. They're going to execute him.
This is the direction that I fear our country is taking, and I can't have that, man. I can't allow it, man.
I totally understand, dude. Every time I see a fucking communist on Twitter using their iPhone, all I can think about is shit like this. Don't give me that communism hasn't been tried bullshit. Look what it's doing right now.
Yep.
Today. This isn't 50 years ago. This isn't some fucking land that doesn't exist anymore. This isn't some guy that's dead and the history books have distorted his life. This happened this week. Right now. So all I'm saying is this, friends. When you hear people out there talking about pushing communism in the United States and how that will solve this problem and that problem and all of these things, you have to remember their short-sightedness is their downfall, but that doesn't mean that they can't learn the larger lesson. Communism only works today. Tomorrow, it creates fucking chaos. And no better example than what has happened to Big China in the last years. The last 10 years, 20 years, how far back do you want to go? What day did Xi Jinping take power? You know what I mean? Where do we, for the love of Christ, he lied and they're going to sentence him to death because he's using the wrong economic system?
Fuck.
Guys, I don't give a fuck what political doctrine you think you subscribe to or what party you like to be affiliated with or what fucking color shirt you're wearing or who you voted for. I don't give a fuck about any of that. What I do give a fuck about is team capitalism, because when you go those other directions, people starve, people die. We've proven it 100 fucking times over. And while, yes, there are problems with capitalism, and yes, it can create inequality and corruption like any concentrated system, with capitalism, at the very least, everybody has a chance. And that's the news as I see it.
Bang!
Bang!
Yeah, dude, I did not hear about any of this in my daily news.
Of course not.
About
and
the
that's a whole
ridiculous
other
stuff that we're hearing
element
about
to
here.
this. This doesn't show up in y'all's news. I know it doesn't, because I have to look for it specifically to find it. I know it doesn't pop up in y'all shit, and that's why we have to talk about it here. We have to talk about it here, man, because it just doesn't... This should be, I mean, goddamn, shit like that should be front page fucking news here in the States, and it just didn't. It just did.
I'm not a criminal. I'm an artist working in an unpopular medium.
Can I just speak to you? I mean, really speak to you like man to man. I've known you for a long time, William. And I know about your penchant for